You're listening to the Dead Padawan Society, a science fiction and fantasy podcast celebrating the ideas, mythologies, and truths in iconic works of sci-fi. I'm your host, Nick Dennis, joined by my friend
Brett. At least one of him is here. I've been a little sick recently.
Yeah, I could tell a little bit in your voice.
Do you like that?
Sorry about that, buddy.
Hi, my name's Brett. So I apologize. I'm going to be struggling through this episode, but
it's like smooth molasses in my ears.
Get a little more depth.
Oh, sorry you're under the weather.
That's okay.
Yeah, bounce back right now.
I do not get sick very often. I'm kind of a David Dunn in that way. So it was due. I was due my turn, and so
some jerk came and threw water in your face.
And it got me.
Your system's going down.
Well, my whole family, except for my son, it has been the sick house, and it's just the worst. So
yeah, that's when it runs through the family. That is the worst. It's like everybody's miserable. Yeah.
So, but you sound like your normal chipper self, so that's great.
Well, I had a sinus infection over the weekend, but I'm finally out of it.
Yeah, you sound normal
happy.
By comparison to me. I mean, people are going to be like, "What's wrong? Is Brett dying?" This is the episode before Brett died.
Next episode, we'll have a different co-host. So in between last week's episode and this episode, Brett died, and we got somebody new. So say hello to Mike.
Yeah. So let's talk latest obsessions. What have you been obsessed with lately?
I've been watching. Recently was the Academy Awards. Came out, and different winners. Spider-Verse won Best Animated. I was really happy about that.
You sounded like Peter Brady.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was super happy about that because I loved that movie. Another big one that I was really happy for is, do you know the actress Olivia Colman?
No.
So she's not very well known here. She's big in the UK, but not as much here in the US. But she won Best Actress for the movie The Favorite, where she plays the Queen of England, I think Queen Mary. Yeah. Anyway, I know her from a little show called Broadchurch. Okay. That has been off the air for several years now, but I have had it in my Netflix queue forever. And I've always wanted to watch it because also in the show is David Tennant, and I'm a big David Tennant fan. I love him in pretty much anything. I love him as an actor. And so anyway, it's these two detectives that are in this small town coastal city in the UK, and a murder happens and they have to investigate. He's like a big city guy who's come to small, and so he's a good detective, where she's kind of more novice and is a lot more country, small town. Anyway, that's Olivia Colman. She's incredible in the show. Oh, cool. She's hilarious. The character's hilarious. She has a lot of heart, and she's a phenomenal actor. So I knew nothing about her before watching that show. I love David Tennant, but I fell in love with her with watching the show. Anyway, my wife and I are in the third season of it. It only has 3 seasons, like UK shows do. They cut them off, but we're in the 3rd season now, and we've been binge watching it like crazy because it's a really good crime mystery, small town whodunit kind of show, but it also has there's some other stuff woven in, and a lot of intrigue and a lot of funny things as well. So yeah, I've been super obsessed with that show, and then because she won, I was like, "Oh, Miller!"
Oh, that's awesome.
From the show. I love this, and so I've been obsessed online, like watching interviews and stuff with her, and yeah, so it makes me even more excited. I like when I get to the end of the series now. So yeah, that's what I've been obsessed with. How about you?
Cool. Yeah. Well, since this is my dying episode. I actually was thinking recently about how our recording this and publishing it to the internet potentially causes it to live on even after we're gone, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like a time capsule.
And I was like, there may come a point whenever our children go back and decide to listen to this just to find out who we were and find out about us.
How weird Dad was.
Yeah, they spent so much time obsessing over things that just didn't matter. So, they're trying to find out some deep truth about us, and they're like, no, he was just a nerd. He's such a nerd. But anyway, so I actually did want to take a minute, and my obsession for the last year and a half of my life has been our son Keaton. And so I just wanted to take a second, and I have loved his being a year and a half old. Before, man, I sound like a smoker now. This is getting bad, son.
This is right before,
I died.
Got leukemia
and I was thinking about you.
Didn't love you enough to give up these sweet death sticks.
So at a year and a half, he's finally really gotten to a point where he's super fun to play with. And I mean, like, he was fun before, and there were things that I liked about him. Whenever he was really little, he was really cuddly, and that was cool. And then he decided he didn't want to be held at all, and he just would squirm when you would hold him. And then it was interesting to see him start to like interact with things, and kind of each developmental phase has been really cool. Mm-hmm. But for me, I mean, in some ways, like, each phase has gotten a little bit better than before. But he's finally getting to the point where he's saying some words, and so his word for TV is Elmo. So he'll come up to us and go, Elmo, because Elmo is, so
is what that box is for.
Is what the box is for. But he doesn't actually end up wanting to watch Elmo. He will like say something else. So once we turn it on, then he's like, okay, now we can move on to what I really want to watch. And so that, he's getting to where we've watched this one program on Netflix called Little Baby Bum, which is a weird title, but it's just this series of children's like nursery rhymes and songs. And so he's gotten to the point now where he'll start to do some motions and things like that, and that's a lot of fun. And so he's incredibly sweet, and I just love that. He did inspire a short film that I will never make, but if I had infinite time,
he sparked an idea.
He sparked a really fun idea. So I feed him his breakfast every morning. And one morning, like, sometimes you put him in the chair because it like keeps him there,
right,
while you go do some other, like you get his stuff down or mix it or make sure it's cool or whatever, his oatmeal. And so, he was sitting there in it, and then I'd come back and I'd started feeding him, and we were just having fun. And like, I'll make faces at him, and I'll make sounds as, like I'm dropping a bomb with the spoon. And it's all like, that kind of stuff.
Super fun for parents.
Yeah, fun stuff. So anyway, I was thinking about this little kid who's trapped in this chair, right? And I was like, oh, okay, picture this. Post-apocalyptic scene. There's a neighborhood, and there are cars that are crashed, and there's, there are dead bodies strewn around, and then you go in on this doorway, and the door is like busted open, and there are like bloody handprints on the door, and then you kind of come in, and there's a baby sitting in a high chair, just sitting there, like the baby's fine. Everything's like normal for the baby, but everything around it is just chaos, right? The house looks like it's been ripped apart, and then you start to hear chewing. Okay, you cut to like an over the shoulder from the baby's, like from where the baby is. There's a zombie in the kitchen eating the baby's mom. I'm thinking the title for this is Sorry I Ate Your Mom, Bro. But anyway, so the zombie, like the baby then like makes a sound, and the zombie like stands up and starts lurching toward this baby. And so then like there's this great suspense in that, because it's like this poor baby is trapped. Like, oh my gosh, what's the baby gonna do? And then I thought it'd be great if as the zombie's like on its way over and like lumbering towards, because slow zombies are the best. So it's lumbering towards the baby. Maybe the baby looks a little scared or something, or starts to cry. And then the zombie like steps on like a rubber duck or something, and it squeaks, and the baby laughs. And then the zombie and the baby just end up playing together. Like, and so it ends up this little like friendship between the zombie and this baby. And then like the last scene could be like the zombie and the baby like walking out into the post-apocalypse with like, the baby like holding on to like the zombie's like one good arm, and it's like they become friends through the whole thing. But I was like, wouldn't that be so funny? Or like, even to see like a zombie doing like the peekaboo thing, because my son has just started doing peekaboo too. And so, but you see this zombie like, and like it's horrifying, but the baby just laughs, right? The baby just dies laughing. So anyway, like I said, if I had infinite time and money and resources, I 100% would make Sorry Your Mom, Bro, and it would be a boy and his zombie story.
I just had an idea,
or a zombie and its baby story. I don't know.
What if this idea was adapted for the very like the very end of the Walking Dead TV show,
Yeah.
to where like one of the final episodes opens on exactly that. This is a story outside of everybody else.
Yeah.
This is its own story, and then through that there's the revelation of this is how you tame the walkers.
How to tame your walker
is through like the squeaky toys and child laughter.
Yeah, child's laughter is the secret. And of course, in a post-apocalypse, that's not going to be present anywhere. So
exactly, and so no one has figured that out yet, and then it's revealed that that's how you tame them.
Yeah, I thought, you can even take that in different directions. Like if you did a webcomic with that idea, like as the kid grows up, like he's gonna find out that his mom got eaten by the zombie, and so they can kind of have like bonding moments and like it's like friction and. Is the zombie technically the baby's parent? No, but like they kind of have that role, but they're also just buddies, like. So, yeah.
That's an incredible idea.
Oh, yeah. I just thought I'd share that with our audience. That's probably as far as that idea will ever go. Unless, one of you wants to steal it and make millions and remember me when you enter your kingdom.
It's most likely not going to be in front of a Pixar film, I'll say.
I don't know. That one with the dumpling before Incredibles 2.
Bow?
Yeah.
Yeah, it won the Academy Award last one.
That one got a little disturbed. Like, there were people in our theater who gasped when she, ate it.
Yeah, until it was revealed that, she's having...
It's like a metaphorical thing. Yeah.
It's a metaphor, and maybe she's having a nervous breakdown over her son leaving her. It was an audible gasp in the theater when that happened too, of like, wait, what does this mean?
Yeah.
Did she eat something that's alive, or what's going on?
Yeah. It was very disturbing for a couple minutes, and they let it hang too. Like, I think they knew. They're like, oh, this will get them.
They know what reaction was gonna happen there. Yeah.
So. All right, Nick. Well, today we're doing something a little different than what we've done previously. We've talked a lot about movies. Mm-hmm. We talked a little bit about some short stories in there. We've worked in, even we're gearing up to talk about a book with iRobot later this year. But we have not done, this is something that I have thought about a lot over like my fandom of science fiction. And I don't know that I've seen a whole lot of people actually even talk about this subject, which is science fiction songs. Yeah,
so it's a part of the genre that doesn't get a lot of focus because, movies, books, TV shows, those are like long medium and visual. Like science fiction is very visual in that. And, storytelling in the book, that's long form as well.
Exactly.
And so short form media, and especially in a song that's only a few minutes to... like 10 or 20 minutes long, even is very short.
It's very compressed stories. Yeah, absolutely. But for me, like it's a really interesting space, and in the same way, of course there is science fiction music and songs, in the same way that there are songs about lots of other subgenres and crime and the West. I mean, you've got all of those things. So
when we were doing this, I was trying to think of like what other subgenres are there that are also in film and other media, because obviously like romance, romantic comedy and stuff like that. Love is a huge thing that's in songs. So as far as genre, that's like the lion's share. And then I started thinking, is country country Western, not modern country?
I would say modern, but there definitely are songs that come out that have a feel. Now again, it's subtly different. It's not told in exactly the same way because it's a different medium than film. But there are definitely songs that take notions of the West and apply that to country Western music. So
Thriller, the song Thriller is a thriller.
It is a thriller. Have you seen the music video? For me, it was actually interesting as I've interacted with people about this. There are a lot of people who, whenever I'm like, we're going to do an episode where we create a list of the top 10 sci-fi songs of the 20th century, and they're like, what are you talking about? Like
sci-fi songs. That's not a thing.
That's not a thing. Like, are you talking about like movie soundtracks? And I'm like, okay, I get that. I kind of get that. But no, there are actually a number of pretty legitimate like works of sci-fi, science fiction that are songs. And so I'm really excited to kind of get into this. Nick, you and I went to our separate isolation chambers, and we created independent lists based on independent criteria for what we thought makes a sci-fi song, or how we would judge the best sci-fi song. Now, we also limited this to the 20th century because there's kind of a closed end cap on that. I actually, in researching for this, there's a lot of stuff like in the last 20 years that I mean, I think is ripe for that. So
there was a lot that I was like, well, when was that song? And it's early 21st century, and it's like, well, I feel like there's been enough time for that to be able to tell if that has lasted. But it's a good idea to cap it at the 20th century. So stuff that's newer, you're not exactly sure if that will stand the test of time. If do we like that song just because it's new? Is it actually good? And so in trying to create the top 10 of all time, I think it's good to keep that cap. 99 is a good stopping point. Yeah. As far as having distance enough away from a song to know if it should qualify to be in the top.
Yeah. So, like I said, you and we each made our own top 10 list based on our own criteria. And I'm actually really excited to hear what your criteria were, because this was kind of a fun nut to crack. Because, I mean, we could have approached this from like just the best songs associated with science fiction. And then, soundtracks would have actually been ideal. I mean, some of the best would probably have come from the world of soundtracks,
right?
Instrumental things.
If it was soundtrack, then it's like, 2001 theme of 2001: A Space Odyssey, or something like that,
or something by John Williams, maybe.
Right? The fanfare at the beginning of Star Wars, or the throne room,
or, James Horner's stuff for Star Trek too.
Right. Theme for Jurassic Park, now that's a whole other show right there to rank
we'll have
sci-fi themes.
We put a pin in that one.
That would need to expand to like a top 20 list at least, because there's a incredible stuff, but that's a score for a film, and so it doesn't exist on its own per se as science fiction.
And a lot of those are also instrumental, and so from my standpoint, again, whenever I was creating my own criteria, if something, because there are a lot of even sci-fi concept albums and things, but a lot of them will have like instrumental tracks and things, and I generally threw those out because for me that wasn't what I was looking for as the best sci-fi song. Again, you could have done that. What was your criteria for creating your top 10 list?
So let's jump right into that. So in thinking of what is it, not only what is a sci-fi song, like what qualifies, and what would qualify it to be in the top 10 to make it, for me, what I was trying to think of, what would make it the greatest of all time? How could it, get up to that echelon? And so, first off, I have 4 criteria.
Oh, I beat you. I only have 2.
You only have 2?
2 criteria is all I needed.
Some of mine kind of morph into each other, but they're basically 4 statements of here's what I want you to hit. First off, it has to be engaging sci-fi for it to just qualify. And so the question I asked myself with this is, does the concept tell a sci-fi story without just using sci-fi imagery? And that, for me, that was a qualifier, because if it's just a song that is saying things that sound sci-fi-y, to me, that's not good enough to get into the top 10. It has to be an actual sci-fi concept in the words, in what's putting forward, telling a story that would, in any other media, book, movie, that would be a sci-fi story if it was fleshed out on one of those. So it had to be that. It couldn't just be like ray guns, time, like somebody saying those words in a song that has nothing really to do with the genre. So it had to be engaging sci-fi. Number 2, cultural impact. Has this song permeated the culture and stood the test of time? That to me is important, because again, thinking of it as top 10 of all time, is like, does anyone know this song? Like, is this something that people would recognize of, oh yeah, that's a great song, it's a great sci-fi song. So has it permeated culture, and does it stand up to the test of time, or is it just like, oh, that is not good anymore? Mm-hmm. That worked in its time, but not so much anymore. 3, catchy. Is the song catchy? Mm-hmm. Because it is. We are looking for the best sci-fi songs, but a part of that is it's a song. And so is the song memorable? Is it singable? Is it re-listenable? This is my fun factor, basically. Okay. So that was a factor as well. Is this a song that somebody would actually enjoy having on a playlist? Mm-hmm. And to where it's like some that I may have wanted on there is like, no, not so much. And then 4, my 4th criteria is it unique? Does the story stand out? So not just that it is a sci-fi, because there really is a ton of sci-fi songs out there if you really look into it. But is this a unique concept that's standing out? Because I was like, you could get into looking at a bunch of them and you could see a lot of them saying the same thing, but does this have a little something else that makes it unique and sparks my interest? And so that would make it rise up to the top as well. So those are my criteria.
So, honestly, my 2 align pretty closely with your 4.
Okay.
We're creating a list of the top 10 sci-fi songs of the 20th century. Is it good sci-fi? Number 1. Is it a good song? Number 2. So that was really what I boiled it down to. And so your first point for me was actually really important going into it, because you're right. There are a lot of songs that use sci-fi trappings, and there are a lot of works of sci-fi, especially like B sci-fi, that just use a sci-fi element, but they're largely just something else. They're an action film, and in the case of music, there were a lot of, especially like in the sort of psychedelic era, there are a lot of songs that will throw in some kind of universal spacey imagery, but they're not really. Okay,
you're saying something there that makes me think you're thinking of a particular song, and I'm wondering if we're thinking of the same song.
Oh, I'm thinking of several songs.
Okay, I'm specifically because I also got online and looked at like what are other people saying are their favorites for sci-fi songs, and I found in several places people putting the Beatles' Across the Universe.
Yeah.
As that, in my opinion, is not a sci-fi song.
Yeah.
It is not, because if you look at like what it says, there's I mean, talking about like a religious like shaman, it's like him thanking him for it, and it is a psychedelic song that I think the words of Across the Universe and the stars and things like that, I think that's an acid trip. I don't think
Well,
I don't think that's an actual story about space and out there.
Whenever I was talking with people about this, there were several people who also were like, well, surely Pink Floyd has something. So I actually started trying to dig into their body of work, and there are a few pieces that will make those types of lists, and you listen through them and they're just acid trips. And so I was like, man, I would love to, people want you on the list, but I'm sorry.
I did consider a couple Pink Floyd songs, just to be fair, but I just don't like Pink Floyd. It's not my cup of tea.
And that gets into my second criteria, where is it a good song? So that for me, a song is the musical quality. So is it listenable? But then that's also like the lyrical quality to it. So like how those things kind of come together. And I actually took every song that I thought I would let on the list, put them in a big list, and then I organized them by those 2 criteria, and kind of went through and like what cropped up the highest on both lists. And so it's like, for me, the best are going to be the songs that are great songs and they're great sci-fi. And I think we have some of those. Like, that's the cool thing coming out of this. Yeah.
Like mine, I think I ended up, because of my criteria of it needing to be catchy, like singable, re-listenable. I mean, that's pretty subjective.
Yeah.
And so every song that didn't do that for me, I just tossed out. And so I ended up with only, like at the very end, I only ended up with like a pool of like 13 or 14 songs.
Oh, nice. What are some honorable mentions?
Well, like I said, Across the Universe, at first, I was like, considering that, I love the Beatles. I mean, they have a ton of #1 hits. And so it's like, I
guess we're kind of letting people know what's not on our list too by saying this.
Right. And so, and I felt like, well, I need to give this song a shot because, I mean, again, top 10 of all time, Beatles definitely should be considered because they're just a phenomenal band. And so I gave that a shot and I was like, nah, it's not cutting it for me. I don't truly believe that it is a sci-fi concept or story in there. And so that fell off. A song I really love is Bowie's Moon Age Daydream. It was in my first just thought collection of, that could be a possible. But if you look at that song in the lyrics of it, it falls into the category of just using, in my opinion, just using sci-fi imagery. Like I don't see that as actually being a song. It just is like, freak out in a moon age daydream, put your ray gun to my head. Like it just feels like it's using different sci-fi imagery in order to make a fun and interesting song. And there's a little bit of a story in there, but I don't specifically see it as sci-fi. So then that didn't make the cut either. What were some honorable mentions of yours?
There were this is sort of a side rule that I gave myself. There are some that made it to my list that I really didn't want my list overly saturated with like a few single like artists, because that could happen. There were a few, especially artists that produce like sci-fi concept albums. Honestly, Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars, like that Bowie's. Whole the concept of that album is all of this is sci-fi. It's like an alien singing rock music. So that it would have been really easy to pull several Bowie songs. So there are a few of those that didn't make my list. I kind of went with the best, in my opinion, from that artist. Same thing. ELO is a band that, I mean, like their logo is a spaceship. Like that's so. Especially there's a concept album, Time, that the whole thing is just this tripped out voyage to the future, and that's
Electric Light Orchestra for the layman.
Yes, Electric Light Orchestra. Those I'm trying to think. There were Styx, Come Sail Away was one that I didn't include on my list that I toyed with. The biggest one for me, Purple People Eater. Are you familiar with this song?
Yeah. One-armed flying purple people eater.
Yes, by Sheb Woolley.
But is that a monster?
No, he's an alien. He straight comes down from outer space. If you listen to it, it tells the story of an alien who comes down and he eats purple people, but he doesn't eat our kind of people because we're too tough. And he wants to. The reason he came to Earth was so he could play rock and roll. So I really, it's just so stupid. Like that was my thing. I'm like, this is such a fun concept, and like it's so funny. So that one, there are other bands. Rolling Stones had at least one song that I considered. Deep Purple's Space Truckin' was one that I looked at in a little bit. And again, a lot of these songs make the lists that other people make. But
we're holding it to a tight 10.
Tight 10. And from our collective 10s, we're going to narrow it down to a single list of 10. So we could have 20 maybe that we're working from, depending on how many of these carry over.
Possibly. I have a feeling already that we're going to have some similar lists here.
All right. Well, let's find out what our lists are. Let's actually do a countdown from 10 to 1 of our individual picks, and then we'll figure out how we're going to narrow this list down. All right. So number 10, I had The Final Countdown by Europe.
Okay. I also have that on my list. But not
at number 10.
Not at number 10.
Okay.
And so for number 10, I have from Flock of Seagulls, I Ran So Far Away.
There you go. Number 9, I had 2112 by Rush.
Okay. Wow, that's really low on your list.
Oh, do you have that one on your list too?
It's also on my list.
But it's higher up? Okay.
It's higher. You have that at 9. I have Final Countdown at 9.
Okay.
So we're similar at that. So Europe final countdown. I have 9. You got it at 10.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So number 8.
I have Watcher of the Skies by Genesis.
Okay. I have one you've already said, Come Sail Away. Didn't make your list. It has made mine.
It is number 8 on your list. Okay, This is getting interesting. All right, number 7, I have Starman by David Bowie.
Okay.
David Bowie.
I also have Starman on my list, but not in that spot.
Oh, I was hoping we were going to line up on one of these.
That would be awesome. I think it might happen. We're on number 6?
7.
No, 7. I have Highwayman by the Highwaymen.
Okay.
If you don't know the Highwaymen, you've got...
You got to look at... They're a super group.
They're a super group. You got Cash, you got Willie Nelson, Chris Christopherson, and...
Waylon Jennings.
Waylon Jennings, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, they're amazing. And this is like their song. Like this is...
This
is the titular Highwayman song. Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's their anthem.
Yeah.
They're the Highwaymen singing Highwayman.
All right. At number 6, I have In the Year 2525 by Zager and Evans. This is a one-hit wonder.
Okay. I have at number 6, Mr. Roboto by Styx.
Domo Origato. I have that one, but it appears a little higher on my list.
Okay.
All right. At number 5, we're getting into the top 5. I had a song that a lot of our listeners probably do not know, but you need to go find. The Third Planet by Tandy and Morgan. The Third Planet by Tandy and Morgan. It's from an album. This is actually from a Sci-Fi concept album. So this is one where I listened to the album and I'm like, which song really encapsulates what they're doing here the most? The album's called Earthrise.
Okay. So number 5 for me, I have Elton John's Rocket Man.
Excellent. One that I also have in at number 4.
Oh, okay.
So
we're close on that one.
We're very close on that one. So my number 4 is Rocket Man. What's your number 4?
Okay. Coming in with another man, I have Starman from David Bowie.
It's pretty high for you. I approve of that.
At number 4, Starman.
Number 3, I have Mr. Roboto.
Okay, Mr. Roboto at number 3, I've got it at 6. Okay, at 3, I have Black Sabbath's Iron Man.
All right. That was... I actually should have brought that one up in an honorable mentions for me because that is not one that made my list.
Yeah,
so
not at all.
I will talk about that one.
I find that interesting.
My number 2, Ticket to the Moon by ELO.
Oh, this is going to be interesting. Oh, man. My number 2 is 2112 by Rush.
Wow. And my number 1, the song that I think is the best sci-fi song of the 20th century, 39 by Queen.
What?
Oh, dude, I am ready to go to the mattresses on that one.
What on earth? What? This is not...
Uh-huh. Oh, brace yourself. So what's your number 1 there?
You're lying. Oh, my goodness. My number 1, appropriately, is Space Oddity by David Bowie.
That is probably the biggest oversight that my list has. And it's almost cliche, which is probably part of the reason I left it out. And again, based on my criteria,
I went with
Starman, and we'll talk about this. I went with Starman over Space Oddity, but I'm eager to find out where I feel like that one will probably I will allow to make the final list. So we've got how many do first off, do we want to carry our overlaps into the final 10? Like, do those just get a buy-in automatically?
I don't know at this point because, okay, to just peek behind the curtain here, audience, we sent our lists to each other beforehand, just the lists themselves, not in order. Mm-hmm. And I knew we had these carryovers, but we didn't know what spot everything was going to be in. And so I felt pretty good going into this. But now... your lineup has confounded and confused me because this is not how.
This is you're not prepared to negotiate this?
No, I mean there's several things that you have at the bottom of your list that I have at the top. I mean you've got Well, I mean, we both have Final Countdown toward the bottom. And so what do we do with that? Because
do we pitch it
it's
to,
close,
in favor of other stuff?
They're close but they're both at our bottom, and we like things more. And so what are we going to go to bat for, basically? That's what we've got to figure out. Because there's things like, Rocket Man, Starman, but you've got 2112 hanging at the bottom of your list, and I'll
explain that, but that again, since that's one we both have, I'm totally willing to let that in the top 10, like for sure.
But but you have it at number 9, whereas I have it as number 2. That is a big difference. That's a big jump.
It will probably end up landing somewhere in the middle.
Oh Lord, this is going to be hard. Okay,
so again, do we?
All right, so
do we give the ones that we overlapped on at least have the same titles? Do those get a buy-in, or are we? Do we want to consider cutting some? Well, you mentioned
how many do we have carried over
again?
So we've got 5. Of the 10 that we have on both
that
lists.
we both have.
So that is Starman.
Mr. Roboto.
Yeah.
Rocket Man. 2112.
Mm-hmm.
And the Final Countdown.
Okay.
If we decided not to keep one of those and instead wanted to keep other songs from our lists, the Final Countdown for me, it was almost on that line of not being sci-fi. Like, it talks about flying past Venus and things, but it's clearly just a really epic song. Like, that's really what it's trying to do.
The reason it's in my list is because it's such an epic song.
Yeah. Because
it nailed my criteria of catchy.
Well, and being super culturally, because that was one thing I didn't care about, like, really, is how culturally...
Oh, really?
In science fiction, I mean, think about some of the greatest works of sci-fi, especially in film, that don't get found for, decades, that get basically overlooked in the cultural milieu, and then people are like, oh, wait a second, this is really great sci-fi.
But I would argue that there's still really, really great sci-fi that is known, that you could say, that you could look to. I'm trying to pull an example of this right now, but
you don't have one because that doesn't exist.
No, like Metropolis.
Yeah,
like you could look to Metropolis. Have a ton of people seen Metropolis? No, but it has also gotten into the culture so much that people, when they see it, are like, oh yeah, I know that. That's that old black and white sci-fi movie. To where
yeah, but it was the only game in town at that point. Like it and it's a lot of the visuals. But
it's also foundational.
Like the visuals got into it, whereas we're talking about like all of these songs are going to be taking their storytelling elements. Like, songs have been around for forever. So, they're not going to be inventing new forms or creating new things necessarily. There are a few that definitely have iconic sounds to them, but I think on the whole, there's less, whereas Metropolis is a game changer in film. It has significance above just...
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. So that would be the thing that I didn't care as much about that, so I can see where some of yours got on the list and didn't make it on mine, but I like that said, I'd be okay ditching the Final Countdown, going into getting it down to 10 if you wanted to, which would actually give us the opportunity if we wanted to carry 4 that we both think, and then each of us pick 3. We could do that if you wanted to.
Okay. I say, first off, we both need to try and veto one of the others' song and get it gone. Okay. Which this one is going to be hard for me to do for you.
I'm ready. So you can be thinking about it.
No, I want to jump into this because this is baffling me right now.
I want to move. Oh, okay, you want to go ahead? Okay.
I want to go ahead because where I put this on your list, it blows me away. At number 2, you have Electric Light Orchestra, Ticket to the Moon. At number 2 on your list. This is, if I were to arrange your list, this would be 10. This would be at the complete bottom. And so that's where we're going to butt heads on this.
Have you ever been in a long-distance relationship?
No.
See, if you've been in a long-distance relationship, you know how hard that is. And then, if you put that in a sci-fi setting, how much further away is the moon? Like, I love the emotion of the way that song uses its sci-fi setting to convey something about like the human condition.
But okay, here's where I'm going to push back on you. Okay, number one, and I'm going to say this because it is my opinion, but it's also fact.
Okay.
ELO sucks. I hate ELO.
Oh, yeah.
That's why they're not on. That's why they're not on my list at all.
And now we actually know why you're gonna have a different co-host next week, because them's fighting words, Nick.
What?
ELO is one of my 5 favorite bands.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Oh, 100%.
Do you like Air Supply?
No.
Okay.
ELO is so much better.
Oh.
And again, the time. Okay, so I will say, "Ticket to the Moon" comes from Time, which is their sci-fi concept album.
Okay, tell me.
Yeah.
Before we get into this, tell me what the story is of this song.
Okay, so "Ticket to the Moon" is part of this larger piece where a man from the 1980s, the time whenever the album was released, gets flung into the future of the mid-2000s, and there he finds himself kind of being confronted with all of these changes that have happened. So in one song, "Yours Truly 2095," he gets he falls in love with a robot, and that's like something that he's so struck by, because she's kind of like a person, but she's kind of not, and so he's dealing with that. "Ticket to the Moon," and again, to me, like, it's this great kind of lilting ballad about the sadness of finding love and then getting shipped away. You get sent to the farthest part of the world possible, and honestly, like, our world has gotten so small. Like, sci-fi is the only place where you can actually have that anymore. So somebody literally gets sent to the moon on a one-way ticket. Like, you're there, you're stuck, that relationship's over. And I would actually say, like, it really resonates with me. Even this past week, I heard a story about this couple who met in North Korea. The husband was from North Vietnam, and he had gotten a work permit to work in North Korea, but it was super restrictive. He one day worked up the gall and went to one of the Korean workers in this factory, and he's like, "Hey, can I walk you home?" And they had to have this secret relationship while they were in the country. Then he got sent back to Vietnam, and he spent the next like 20 years doing everything he could just to get a visa to go back into the country, or to find a way to do that. And eventually so they met in 1970. They didn't get married until 2007 because of the separation that these two people had. But they were so driven and so connected. And so for me, and again, the lyric of that's communicated in that like, again, thinking, and I've had a long distance relationship. My wife and I, we met in college, but we're from opposite directions. Like, our homes are 16 hours apart. We only met because of college. And so, like, I can identify with that being carted away and being shipped off to some place that you're no longer connected, and you don't even really have a means of getting to the person that you most love. And so, some of the phrases that are used, and ELO can get a little trite sometimes, but seeing the earth rise, but preferring to see the sunrise in her eyes. Like, I love that turn of phrase, because that perfectly communicates, like, yeah, I'm in space and it's majestic and I'm going off to the moon and how exciting. Oh, but actually it's not that exciting, because my heart is back on Earth. And that is science fiction for me. Okay. So that's why to me, it's great sci-fi, and it's a good song, and it's part of this. Again, I could have stocked the whole list with just ELO songs. I'm going to be real.
Really?
Yeah, I totally could.
Really?
But that to me, now again, I maybe should have picked one a little more up-tempo or a little more fun, because this one, I'll admit, it's not a fun song. It's a sad song.
I'll say, I really, the passion that you had right there, I really liked, even though the story
the song is not.
You're inputting things onto this song that aren't there, with your story and the Korean story.
Right?
But
don't you feel for that Korean Vietnamese couple?
Yeah, you can't use use their story to argue for this song.
One of the things that they shared in the story was that she actually felt some remorse, because the time it took them to get married, she was past like childbearing age, and so she was actually like sad that she was never going to be able to give him children. Like, it was so heartbreaking.
Goodness, that's heavy.
Yeah, right?
That's some heavy stuff. Okay, here's my argument.
So would that be your veto of my list?
Well, it was in my ranking of your songs.
It was at the bottom?
It was at the bottom.
Wow.
Partially because do not like ELO.
There are a few on mine that I was like, they're ready sacrificial lambs. Do you not want to know what my ready sacrificial lamb?
Before we get there, I want to just make the argument.
Okay.
I like the idea, the concept that this song puts forward. The idea of being sent off, being away from those that you love. Super great idea for a song because it plays on emotion, and that's what a song is trying to convey in such a short time. Good sci-fi concept. I liked it better in Rocket Man, which is on both of our lists.
Oh, that's a fair point.
So, and you could even argue that Final Countdown has the same idea because it's a one-way ticket.
Ticket to the Moon definitely does that better. I would actually say though the difference is the perspective, and why I would actually, because you're right, there is a similarity of perspective between Rocket Man and the protagonist here, but I would actually say that Jeff Lynne of ELO, who wrote the song, and Elton John, I think what you actually see is two very different personal reactions to that situation. And I always got the feeling that in Rocket Man, he's super disaffected. Like there's the titular Rocket Man, like, you know, he's...
See, I printed out the lyrics just for this occasion because the line in Rocket Man that is the best, in my opinion, is the Rocket Man burning out his fuse up here alone. And to me, that is the song that he's burning up everything that is him, and he's doing it alone.
All right.
Like everything that he is going away, but it's not happening with his family. He's completely away from him. So the melancholy is there of the situation that he's in. And then of course, like, he's on Mars, and you can't raise kids on Mars, and so his family just couldn't be there, and it's menial work too that he's there. It's just, he says, it's just a job. It's science he doesn't even understand. That he's there, and so there's melancholy there as well.
Yeah, but he's so, like, for me, his melancholy is so disaffected. Like he is taking this identity as spaceman and like kicking everything else to the curb.
But it's an identity. It's an identity crisis too, because he's. And
see, I would say Jeff Lynne's,
like, I'm not the man.
Jeff Lynne's protagonist isn't having his identity is a man who's in love who can't get back.
Well, yeah, there's tragedy there. I agree, but
so that's why I would say I do see thematically they're similar. I would push. Of course,
they're not the same story.
I have some sacrificial lambs that I would offer up instead of Ticket to the Moon if it's going to come to that. One I want to ask you about, if I were going to veto one of yours, I ran, which is in at your number 10 slot. So it clearly did not place very highly, but for me...
It doesn't place highly, partially because I would say there would be a question as to its validity as far as the sci-fi,
which was my big question. Yes,
but what I would argue, because you could look at this song and say it's more like there's an interpretation of it that the woman is an angel or death and is taking this man away. And so the cloud overhead and him rising up is the idea that she's hypnotizing him because she is like an angel of death, or go the more beautiful side, she's an angel and taking him up, and this guy is dead. Like, there's that interpretation of the song, but there's certain things in the song that I feel like are hinting at it being sci-fi, and as well, the music video for it is very much in the sci-fi vein, and I feel like that also informs that's what it is. So
is it though?
Here's the thing why.
I mean, it's futurist, but it's not necessarily
futurist. But the girls that are in the video have a robotic quality to them, or alien in that, in being like an other, which you could say that's like the mystique of a woman being like weird out there and unknown. You could play that into it, but that's why like women are used as aliens in cinema a lot because it plays on that same idea. And so, but the reason why I think it is because it talks about how she is hypnotizing him with his eyes all the way through. He tries to run. He tries to get away. A cloud appears above head and a beam of light shines down. And then the Aurora Borealis shows up as well. And then at the very end, he's trying to run away. He's trying to get away, but then he's floating up in a beam of light. This song, to me, in my opinion, I think this is an abduction song.
Yeah. I mean, I can give you that.
I think it's an abduction song.
I would still say it's weak sci-fi.
It is definitely weak sci-fi, and that's why it's the bottom. The reason it made my list is because it's just so dang catchy.
It is super catchy. I will give you that. I love me some 80s new wave.
Right. It's 80s. It's in the time of the big focus of science fiction in music, like 70s, 80s. And the fact that it has permeated culture and stood up is why it landed there. So I could see you kicking that off the list. Do you want to use your veto?
I mean, on your list. That's 100% where I would, if I've got a veto, that's where I would use it. Just because I think both of our lists, all of the other entries to me are stronger sci-fi songs than Iran.
So I am going to strike this. Iran is off. It is not making our top 10. I'm okay with that.
Okay.
So now we still need to kill one of one of your songs.
Do you want to know what my sacrificial lambs are? Can I lay them out on the altar for you to?
Well, see, here's the thing that is still blowing me away about your list is things that are high. I will say I could attack Watcher of the Sky.
Do you want to attack Watcher of the Sky?
Yeah, I think I could take it down.
Don't attack that one. Whatever you do, that's one of my sacrificial lambs. It's got a little catchy riff in it, but it's a little overindulgent. Like Genesis always is. Like that for me.
Yeah, to me. Well, I'm a Rush guy, and Neil Peart.
Yeah,
is I love drums. Neil Peart is incredible. Phil Collins also incredible, but on the drums, but. Different. I don't like his style. Yeah. Like I love Neil Peart. I love his style, and even though he goes nuts on the drums, it still fits within riffs and fun things that you can. My question is, in the song, what is the melody?
Can you pick
out a
there's
single
nothing
melody?
You can sing along to in this song.
There's absolutely nothing. It's
it's so staccato. Like it's a weird rhythm.
I can't conjure it in my head right now.
And part of the reason I put it on there, in my opinion, it was one where like the songness of it was like right on the line. But to me, it's good sci-fi.
The story of it is its saving grace, and I understand why it's on your list because the story is interesting and I like that it's
the
there.
Earth,
but
like a lizard, sheds the tail of humanity.
Right.
That we've had our day and we've lost it, and now there's somebody observing.
Is it based on? I saw somewhere that it was based on an Arthur C. Clarke short story as well. Like they had adapted some ideas.
If I really cared about this song, I probably would have done the research to find that out.
But I like the idea of these like watchers. These, because that's even in Marvel comics. There are watchers who look at the whole universe.
What? Goodbye, Watcher of the Skies. Sorry, Phil.
It's just. Oh, I listened to this song and my thought was, this sounds like a band all wearing noise-canceling headphones and then playing different songs. And then them recording that.
So we've eliminated 2. We have 5 that overlap. So we still need to shed 3.
Okay.
To get down to 10. Of yours, there was one that I liked and I considered, but the sci-fi link is also kind of tenuous. And I hate to even say this because it's Johnny Cash delivering the sci-fi hook, but Highwaymen, it only turns into a sci-fi song at the very end.
Okay, I have 2 songs that you could say this of in my list.
Okay.
Come Sail Away and Highwayman.
Yeah.
Okay, and here's why I'm going to argue if you're wanting to cut on that criteria, I would offer you up
Come Sail Away.
Come Sail Away before Highwayman, and this is why. Because I think the sci-fi concept goes further than just the final man in the lineup being a star captain going across the sky. I think the story presented in this song is that it is the same man being reincarnated.
So this is Cloud Atlas?
Over time. Yeah, it's Cloud Atlas, that I was a highwayman, and then he dies. He becomes a sailor on the sea. He dies. Quantum, like maybe it's Quantum Leap style. Like the spirit of that guy then jumps into the Boulder, Colorado guy working on the Hoover Dam, and then finally into this star captain. And then the idea is presented of, what will I be? Johnny Cash says, what will I be next? Yeah. Will I be just a grain of sand, or maybe a highwayman again? And so I think the sci-fi concept is actually throughout, that this is a person who is jumping into different bodies over time.
And like you said, Styx, it does just kind of come in, sort of trip. Again, that's one that almost feels like an acid trip too. Where,
well, I like it because I like the story of it. I like because I love when there's sci-fi set in the past and when they make it work. And so the idea of, you know, in the old days, ships out on the sea, like crazy things happened on the sea back in the day. And, you know, if a UFO, way back before,
thought it was angels
in the 18th century, if a ship was out at sea and a UFO came down and abducted people, would the world know about it? Absolutely not.
Yeah,
because there's no way of cataloging that, and so you could still do sci-fi in the past.
Yeah,
that way, you could make an interesting story.
Well, based on your case, I mean, you totally won me over. I would have kept Come Sail Away before keeping Highwayman, but
yeah,
I'm willing to reverse that. So.
And I just love, like, Come Sail Away is an incredible rock song.
It is.
With it and Bohemian Rhapsody are like your rock out in the car songs. And so that was hitting that catchy, memorable, I can sing to it. And so that's where it got on my list.
Yeah, I would also say we have another Styx song that is definitely going to make the list, right?
Right.
So
well,
Styx is getting represented to me.
Styx is getting represented. We both had it on our list, so it's solidly there. So I'm okay with...
Come Sail Away is sailing away.
Is sailing away. Bye-bye.
I'm sailing away.
I will miss that song because it's incredible.
All right. Are there any others that you... Because, again, I would do my best to hold on to Ticket to the Moon if I could. But...
Okay. I will say this. One that I have on my list that you do not is Space Oddity.
That gets a bye. 100%.
It is at number one on my list. I am not giving that up.
That was a huge oversight. And once we actually start ranking these, because we probably should save some discussion for that. But I 100%.
Okay, so
Oddity.
I'm writing a number 6 on our 5 that we have a bye, and I'm putting Space Oddity there.
Okay. Can I actually, again, the one I'm most passionate about is 39. I would give up basically any of my songs to keep that one on the list.
I'm still baffled that 39 is...
It's my number one, and I'll explain it once I'm telling you why we should both put it at number one.
I don't see it, because when I ranked your list, I put it at number 8. And I had Ticket to the Moon squarely at last as well. I'm really confused as to why you love 39 so much, because it to me feels like a weak sci-fi concept, number one, and it's Brian May singing, and so it's like even Freddie didn't believe in this song.
I mean, it is on Queen's most popular album. Freddie was a little busy on some other stuff there, like you got to throw one to, like...
yeah, I guess so, but...
Even Ringo gets to sing, like... But that would be the one that I would, of mine, it earns its place. And I'm willing to push for that now, but I think whenever we're talking about placement...
I'm gonna punt that argument down the road for now, because I'm really baffled at that one. Okay, The Third Planet. You have it at number 5?
Number 5.
I had it at number 9 for you on my list, because I had never even heard this song
Yeah,
before.
and that's
and so when you sent me your list, I was like, what is this? And I listened to it, and okay, I want to see if I have the story right on this song.
Yeah.
So it is an AI
yes.
on Earth
Yes.
looking at humans.
Yes.
And it is sending out a call, some sort of signal out into the universe to basically save me from this doomed race, because I can clearly and easily see that they are wrecking place.
Yes.
And this is all doomed to failure. So please come and save me.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay. That being said, though I like that concept, this song is
it's hard to listen to.
It's hard to listen to. It is like a weird, like and a bore, and so slow.
Yeah.
And unless you're like just really focusing on it, you have no idea what this is saying at all. Like you have to super focus on it to be like
the effect even on the voice. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and just the idea of who's talking. You have to figure that out first before the whole thing makes sense. And so, which most people are not going to do. That's a kind of a nitpicky thing about a song that I, again, really like the idea
the
that
sci-fi
the story
concept
is putting forward.
Part of the reason this one got a buy-in, I was looking for the best representative song of a sci-fi concept album. And so honestly, I just wanted to make our audience aware. If you haven't, check out Tandy and Morgan's Earthrise, featuring The Third Planet among other songs. It's entirely sci-fi themed album, so it's got a lot of different interesting perspectives. I'm willing to let it die.
Okay, so that brings us to 2 of yours gone, 2 of mine gone, and so we need
one of ours to go.
We need one more to go in order to have a 10. Right?
I'm gonna court as much controversy as I can. I don't like the song Iron Man.
Oh my word. Dude, when you didn't have this on your list, I was like,
do not
really?
like the song Iron Man. It's it's got it to me, it's like Sweet Home Alabama. Like, it's got an interesting hook, but it goes on for way too long, and it's just so... And, like, I understand the sci-fi concept after reading about it. I did not pick that up in the song. Like, you don't...
Really?
No,
you didn't know that before?
Because Ozzy's so, like... And it also, like, it does that weird...
He has lost his mind. Like that.
Yeah. I mean, so the vocals are rough. It's droning, and...
but it's so iconic.
But iconic doesn't matter for me as much as good sci-fi, good song. And for me, I can understand if you like it, and it's an epic rock song, and that, some of the guitar licks in that song are great. I'll give you that. And if that's what you're into, like...
Okay, but before we go any further, and our listeners, if you're like, Iron Man is a sci-fi song? Okay, I need to break it down before we just nix it from the list.
Okay, explain.
Okay, so the idea is that a man whose world is crumbling, well, let's just put it on Earth. Let's just say that this is Earth. There's a guy in the future who the world is crumbling, and so he goes back in time in order to save humanity, save the world. Well, through the process of beaming back to time, he is transformed into this Iron Man. And so when he arrives, he's this freakish thing that everyone just stares and gawks at and doesn't know, what it's here for, and no one pays him any attention, when his whole mission to go is for people to listen to him, to say, the end is near, doom is coming, listen to me, I'm here to save you. And no one pays him any attention, which then drives him insane and angry to where he then, when he is able to get the ability to move his limbs, just starts destroying all the people who've like the world that has laughed at him, becoming the destruction of the world that he was trying to save the world from, which is an incredible sci-fi concept, is when you go back in time to prevent something, but you doing so is the cause of the thing.
The old grandfather paradox.
Right. That idea is well done in sci-fi, and when it's done very well, like in something like Looper, it's really impactful and done. And I like this idea thrown into a movie.
Doing it well?
I think so, because his idea is like, if I go back in time, I'm going to be me. So of course he couldn't foresee becoming the monster that he is trying to stop and trying to save the world from. And through the process of not being listened to, he's changed physically, but then his state, his mind, and his mission changes as well, to where he then is the attacker and destroyer of the world. I love that idea. And it's something that's not, I would say, is not represented in this lineup thus far.
It was, but we got rid of Watcher of the Skies, kind of. I mean, like, the idea of, like, man ruining himself and like that.
But this isn't man ruining. This is a force. This is a force destroying the world, not man's folly destroying the world. And so,
isn't it kind of like if they hack off the man?
I guess.
Now, and in that, there's a better song in Blue Oyster Cult's Godzilla, which was one that I briefly toyed with. But I'm like, that's more tangentially associated with sci-fi than an actual sci-fi song.
Right. Yeah, so I would argue for that one. One I could see maybe you potentially getting rid of would be 2525, but dang, is that catchy.
Well, I'm going to be honest. That was one that I was like, there are a couple that I would sacrifice 2525 for, but like it is picture slices of 10,000 years of time and how man is basic. I mean, it's kind of the Highwaymen, like a cycle of man making the same mistakes.
It reminded me of like the Time Machine, like when the time traveler like hits these key points in time and what is happening to man in that.
Yeah.
Finally ending in the complete destruction of everything.
Yeah, it's hard for me to say that one.
Well, it's actually where I put it.
Yeah.
Where I thought it was on your list is where it is on your list.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
And so below, it's at number 6.
Yeah.
And that's right below the 5. Like when
the ones that we agreed on.
All the 5 that we agree on. I was like, this is my next favorite. Like my favorite of the ones of yours that I didn't have on mine. And so that's
and for me, part of it, like some of the images that they use, like it doesn't develop any of those ideas really, and so that's where it like even Ticket to the Moon versus this song. The reason I would still push for keeping Ticket to the Moon over that one is that Ticket to the Moon is drilling into one really fine idea about the nature of space travel and what will that do to people. Whereas this one's kind of like, and your babies could be born in test tubes, and you could get all your information in a pill, and it kind of is like, we're not really going to think about that. We're just going to kind of go to the next century. But so I'm less tied to that one, but it's a pretty kicking sci-fi song. I mean, like it's hard to.
And I love that
if we lose it, it's got to be number 11.
Well, what year was that? Do you know what year that was?
I mean, it's like a song from the late 60s.
I see. That's the thing, is it's before. Like another reason why I liked it, I could tell by the track itself that it was before like the 70s, 80s big rise of sci-fi, and so I loved that it came before
69. Yeah,
in 69. Okay, and so 69 is the same year as Space Oddity when it came out, and so those are both on the brink of this huge wave of.
Well, we just gone to the moon, so I mean.
Right, exactly. It's in that key time, and so I like it for that. So I would be willing to keep it over Iron Man. How do you feel about that?
I mean, of course, it was on my list.
True, but now that I've made such a great argument for Iron Man.
I like the sci-fi behind Iron Man, but it is not one that I'm going to put on my iPod and listen to on the regular. It's a song worth listening to. It's super iconic. If you're a Black Sabbath fan, you probably love it. It's probably their most iconic.
Well, see, I'm not even like a huge Black Sabbath fan, but it's Iron Man.
Yeah. And you made such a good case for Highwaymen, otherwise, like, I might be like, well, I might fudge and be like,
Nix
okay,
that one instead.
Nix that one instead. If you wanted to like push for one of those two, but
can we talk about Final Countdown?
yeah,
really,
do you want to
quick?
just get rid of it?
Because where did you have it?
I had it at the bottom. It is tenuous sci-fi at best, but it's an epic song.
See, I have it at 9,
Yeah.
so it's at the bottom.
Do you want to ditch it?
Yeah.
It's the final countdown. All right, well, that solves our problem. So Iron Man and Highwayman and 2525 and Ticket to the Moon are all carrying over.
That's fine with me because I didn't know 2525 before you sent it to me, and I played that song several times. I'm like, I really like this. It's good sci-fi and it's catchy, and I could totally throw that on and listen to it. And so I like that. Final Countdown, although being incredible, like fun anthem song, it's not horrible that it's not on our top 10 list because it's on, I'm sure, a bunch of other people's top 10 lists of incredible, like, rock out, like, get pumped music. Yeah. So there you go.
All right, so
that's what you get, Final Countdown.
All right, so do you want to go ahead and share our composite list of 10 that we're going to go ahead and quickly as we can argue it out,
okay, so
turn into a top 10 list?
So we've got Rush's 2112, Bowie's Starman, Rocket Man from Elton, not Final Countdown, I had that right there. Mr. Roboto from Styx, 2525.
Zager
and Evans. 39 from Queen. Ticket to the Moon, ELO. Highwayman from the Highwaymen. And what am I missing?
Iron Man.
Oh, Iron Man, yeah, Black Sabbath.
And isn't there one?
Oh, Space Oddity.
Space Oddity, yeah.
From Bowie as well.
Bowie. All right, I mean,
I'm so glad that
I'm going to be honest.
Bowie should be on this list twice.
I agree. I actually can I say that is 100%.
Like I get why you kept it off because you didn't want to fill it too heavy, but he rightfully deserves to be on this list twice. And the thing is, there are so many
other songs that honestly could have been a contender.
Right. Yeah. He's Ziggy. He should be on this list. So yes, I'm very happy that he's here.
So. All right, so we've got 10. Let's come up with a top, what the bottom 5, what those should be, and we'll come up with what the top 5 should be, and rank them from there.
That's a good idea.
Sound good?
Top 5, bottom 5. So why don't we?
Do we want to just immediately each of us do like a buy-in of 2 on each, or do you trust me to do that?
I think let's agree.
Or do you want to say like one that should not be in the top 5, and I'll say one that should not be, and vice versa?
Well, let me just look at your original top 5 and my original top 5, or at least what's left in mine. So you have at number 3 in your original Mr. Roboto and 4 Rocket Man. I completely agree. I think those should be top 5.
I am with you on that.
Okay, so let's just go ahead and do Rocket Man and Mr. Roboto are going to be in our top 5.
Totally cool with that.
Okay.
So, bottom 5,
Bowie,
same kind of thing?
Well, Bowie has to be top 5.
But do both Bowie songs have to be top 5? I think we should split it. I think if anything, one of them is top 5, one of them is bottom 5.
See, you have
and I have
Starman in 7
higher than.
You originally had Starman in 7, whereas I had Space Oddity at number 1.
And I had
Starman at 4.
I'm gonna be. I enjoy Starman a little better, and I think it's better science fiction. Space Oddity is almost science fact. Like, it's almost just like guy goes to space, goes crazy and floats away. You know, like, and I get there's kind of that being overwhelmed by the vastness and being kind of consumed by it. But for me, like, the idea that there is some being in space, there's a Starman who is like beckoning you to join him and like
through
sending
the radio
messages.
waves,
Yeah, exactly. Yes. And even that he's a little concerned that once we like interact with him, it's gonna kill us. You know, like that is such a like Lovecraftian. Like for me, that's good sci-fi.
All right, Starman is in top 5. I agree with you there. Now, Space Oddity, I will say,
it's super iconic, and
it's iconic, but also
the music
at the
perfectly
cusp.
blends with what it's doing too. Like, yeah, you know, you're right.
I would argue too that even though it is very factual, of of course that was happening in the space race. It came at 69. It actually came out before the moon landing. And so, but of course there had been missions around the moon before that. And so what he's talking about in there was current.
Our list can be more controversial if we don't go with the one that everybody puts at number one.
Yeah. So top 5. Are we good with it being top 5?
Space. See, I don't think both Bowie songs should be top 5.
See, I wouldn't have a problem with that at all.
I'd be willing to make maybe like Starman number 6 and put Space Oddity in the top, because it is always in the top.
But
like 1 or 2.
But I agree with you that the science fiction part of it,
man, I made too good a case,
is what puts it above Space Oddity. So I would agree with you there.
Okay, you know what? I'll let Bowie in there twice. If you let a good friend of Bowie's, Queen, into the top 5. Because to me, 39, and if this is the time I make my case, I'm willing to make my case.
Yeah, you need to go ahead and do this because I'm still baffled at this choice.
39. Okay. What baffles you about this choice?
Okay, I gotta find. I have so many stinking papers.
He's pulling out a filing cabinet actually right now of arguments against this song.
Where? Oh, it's on this page. Duh. So this is what I wrote down about 39. Yeah. So a good band does not a good song make. Love Queen. Queen's one of my favorite bands of all. I'm interested as to why. I mean, yes, in the album, but Freddie didn't sing it, so it's already down a notch.
Freddie, sings on it, like the chorus parts.
Is he in the background of this? Because I tried to pick him out, and
it's hard to pick out individual members because,
true.
Thing is, Brian.
If he's not in the lead,
well, and a lot of the songs that you like, you're dumping on Brian, but Brian has vocal tracks on almost all of the songs that like.
Right, I'm not saying that Brian doesn't have a good voice. He does. He has got a good singing voice. Mm-hmm. It's just Freddie's like a whole other level.
Oh, true.
He's just a whole other level.
He's no longer human. Yeah,
exactly. So. Number one, listening to it, it sounds like an Eagles song. Like, that's what I keep coming back to.
I kind of see where you're going.
It sounds like almost like an Eagles knockoff, and I'm like, Queen, what are you doing? What is this? What is this song?
Except this would be at best early, like what I'm saying, like, but it predates the majority of the Eagles body of work.
But it's also just not Queen's sound.
That's true. It is very different than Queen's sound.
It's just,
I'll give you that.
And
except for, again,
you've
got there are notes of like Brian's guitarmanship that sneak it. Now, for me, Brian May is one of the best guitarists. Now, we've got Ozzy and Black Sabbath, and they have a very, there's the metal guitarmanship that sometimes is virtuoso, but is a lot of times over the top. For me, Brian May is the perfect guitarist because he doesn't need like lavish solos. He'll have like a guitar phrase that is the best thing, perfectly complements the song, and then ducks back out. It's like, I do my job and it's gone. And then I would say the reverb on the chorus, like there are parts that still have some of that production that Queen was known for.
Okay, so before we go any further, tell me, like, just briefly, what is the story of this song?
Okay.
I think I know what it is, but I want to hear it from you.
39, released on Queen's famous Night at the Opera album, written by Brian May, who we haven't mentioned yet, has a PhD in astrophysics.
Yeah, he's one of those guys.
He was.
It's like Dolph Lundgren is like a doctor.
He at this point actually had not earned his PhD. He earned that in the 2000s. You can actually go download his thesis if you want to read about it. It's incredibly boring, but at this time he had already studied astrophysics. So astrophysicist. So he's already in the world of space.
Okay.
He co-opts an old-fashioned style. So this is in skiffle style, which is why it does sound different. It's like, what is this? Because a lot of it's acoustic and
it's not operatic.
Yeah,
like
it sounds like a folk song, right?
Yeah, and that's where I'm like, it sounds very Eagles, like a newish folk.
And I would even say it. I think the brilliant thing about this is intentionally doing that. So 39 refers to a year, right? Mm-hmm. Which those of us even today, but especially in the 1970s. what are you going to think?
1939, yeah.
1939. But this is not about 1939. This is about some future 39 when Earth has basically exhausted its resources. Overpopulation is a problem. And so astrophysicist Brian May says, oh, wait a second, there's an answer for this out in space. We need to go find a colony planet. And so the opening verse very cleverly veils. It actually sounds like people are launching out on like boats or something. And it's like, oh,
yeah, you
is
think
this?
it's like ships.
Yeah. When the ship sailed out, and a blue morning, and you think that's like, oh, that's the time. No, they're actually shooting into space. These are spaceships that travel to find another planet. They, the end of the first verse, you know, the storytellers say that the score of brave souls are going to be gone for basically forever, that they've launched out. They're not looking back. They're adventurers. They're going to go find a new home for us. And it kind of leaves you with that, like, oh, down on Earth, we've launched man's last hope. And then the second verse, you sort of shift perspectives, and you're now part of that crew who land in the year of 39, which for them is the same year later, because Einstein's theory of relativity says that if you're traveling near the speed of light, time will be compressed. Like you will.
It distorts.
Yeah, and so so the crew and I even love the musical cue that's used that kind of signifies the ship landing. So they land back on Earth, and it's even worse than it was before. It's gray, it's bleak, and there are still people, and they're coming and offering hope. Hey, we found a planet. You know, it's been a year for us. It's been a century or more for the people who are on Earth, and so you have this really beautiful, like, and again, where it gets human to me. The end of the second verse, the narrator, if you will, says that you know, as he's interacting with people who are here, your mother's eyes, from your eyes, cry to me. Because this is clearly somebody who left, like, spouse behind, and that person is dead now. They're never going to see them again. For my life still ahead, pity me. So this person has compressed their life to save the human race. They've come back. They've done it. They've successfully found a virgin planet that they can go to. And he comes back, and he lost the love of his life, and now he's interacting with children who he doesn't know. They're growing. They're now in the land that your grandchildren knew. And so for me, like that, again, astrophysicist. So this is akin to, you know, whenever Isaac Asimov, who is a legitimate scientist, is writing science fiction, like, stand up and take note. But then that he takes Einstein's theory of relativity to craft this really human story about a person who launches out and gives up everything and comes back, and like, it's gone now. I mean, in some ways it connects to Ticket to the Moon. You can tell why I like these two songs. But for me, that notion that it's gone, like, you know, she is permanently past, and I'm now going to have to, I mean, basically this does in 3 minutes a better job of what Interstellar tried to do in 2 hours.
See, that was my...
Shots fired.
That was my argument with this song as well. Is like the concept of relative time for me doesn't save this song like it didn't save Interstellar.
Oh, see, and I think it, again, and part of it told in a folk style, like it gets you settled into this kind of notion, you know, and folk
of
is
the past.
Yeah, of the past.
Yeah.
And so you're viewing a future past, and there's all this time compression and stuff. I think it's brilliant.
Okay. It's all right. I'll say, like, the line that you gave of seeing the tears of in the eyes of, like, those are the eyes of my wife, which I guess, yeah, his wife is her mother or something like that, or at least a relation or something.
Yeah.
Like that
You're basically interacting with,
So it hasn't been centuries then. It hasn't been that long. If you can see,
it's kind of loose with, so it could be a century. Like you're, you know, again, sort of what happens to Matthew McConaughey where he comes back and Murph is an, you know, old lady Murph. You know, it could be that sort of thing where his wife has passed away. He's now, or a daughter. I mean, goodness. Like, again, it's vague because it's a poem. Like, it's, you know.
Yeah, but a century later, that's like 100 years. Like his kid wouldn't have lasted 100 years.
People would live to be 100.
If it was just born baby, and then he left.
Or again, it's poetry, metaphorical mother, female ancestor. Like, doesn't give me a problem.
Yeah, I guess.
Now, I've always wondered.
Agree. I like that line. Like that line is my favorite line of the song when listening to it. But that to me is the only human impactful line of the song. The rest of it is just.
See, for me,
guys went away, relative time, they came back. It's only been a year, but it's been longer for everybody else.
I would say like this
sci-fi
song,
concept, great.
This song has to me it has the poetry that like, there's the famous 6-word poem, "Baby shoes for sale, never used," like that condenses a huge, heavy idea into something really small and simple. And again, it's a fun, folksy, kind of upbeat song.
Like Brian May with his guitar riffs. He only puts what's needed.
Oh my gosh. This is exactly what Brian May does.
Oh, I'm not helping myself here. I'm only entrenching you
in my dogma.
In your idea.
But yeah, so for me, again, like it's a song that deals with relativity. I mean, you don't get that in songs very often, and that it deals with it it takes that concept seriously, and again, relates it to the human. It does what sci-fi, in my opinion, does best.
Okay, I'll
begrudgingly let it in the top 5.
I'll begrudgingly let it at like number 5.
You know what? Can we just lock that one in? I will
as number 5.
I will gladly. I'll consider that a victory.
Okay, so 39 of Queen is
number 5.
Solid number 5.
So then we're also letting Space Oddity in the top 5, right?
Okay, I'll give you 1 for 1.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm willing to let Bowie be in there twice, if you're giving me number 5, locking it in with, which then
plus that then keeps Oddity above 5. As well. Okay, so if those are our 5, then at our bottom that puts 25-25. Mr. Roboto. No. That was the top.
Yeah. 25-25. 21-12. We're getting a lot of numbers in there.
Oh, how did I allow that to happen?
Sorry. Wah, wah. Would you like to move one of those Bowie songs out of the top 5?
I'm considering it. Okay, I'm actually going to take you up on that. I do want to switch 21-12 with Space Oddity.
Really? Okay, explain that. I'll be honest with you. Even in kind of figuring out what I thought would be top of the list, bottom of the list, I was okay with 21-12 being the bottom of the list because it's an interesting sci-fi concept, which I'm sure you'll share with us.
You had it. This is a big contention between me and you with our list because I have it at number 2, you have it at number 9. That's literally flipped on a list of 10.
And see, I would put it somewhere near the middle. For me, and part of it, it's a little in the way. Okay, it's the opposite song of 39. So 39, super compact, does a lot with a little. To me, 21-12 is this opus, like 20-minute long. It's like, did you really need all that? Like, was that really all necessary?
Okay, I'll argue for that. But will you allow it if I allow a switch for Space Oddity?
Oh man. Do you honestly think
I will make a good case?
Do you
for
honestly
this song.
think 21-12 belongs above Space Oddity?
Oh, that's a good question.
Like, are you going to be able to defend that to our listeners whenever they look at you with tears in their eyes? Like,
forget it. All right, we're keeping it. I'm going to argue the crap out of that being number 6, though.
All right, so let's start at the bottom. So of our songs. Can we go with some of the like more tenuous, like Iron Man? Can that be our number 10? Actually, I guess it's not really that tenuous a connection. But like, I don't like it. I don't like it. I want it at 10. Can you tell we're an hour and a half into this recording?
To make you happy, Brett, I will put it at 10.
Hooray!
Because I'm trying to get you in a nice place to give me something a little later.
Oh, are you going to make another play for 2112? You're like, but actually.
I'm okay. Yeah, I'm okay with Iron Man being at 10. I'm good with that. Okay, so number 9 then.
Mm-hmm.
What are you thinking?
Highwayman is the most tenuously connected to, again, unless you're going with the immortal soul theory, which I think it's clearly in the song, but yeah,
you don't have to sell me anymore. I'm sold on it being number 9.
Are you really?
Yeah.
See, I thought you were gonna push Ticket to the Moon further down, which honestly, if you're doing that, can I just lock it in at 8? You hate that song.
I do hate it, and I knew you weren't going to be okay with it being at number 9. So
I mean, I might have been. You actually probably could have. You could have gotten that one out of me, to be real.
No, I'll let you have it at 8.
People who are listening to this are going to be so disappointed once they get to this point in the episode, and we're just like, yeah, just put it in a slot. Just
no. I mean, we've done a lot of arguing, and so even though I can't really fathom Electric Light Orchestra being over Cash. That's a bit...
in sci-fi?
But it's Cash.
But it's science fiction.
But it's Cash and it's ELO.
ELO, the spaceship. Do I need to remind you? Do I need to bring in... Actually, their Out of the Blue album had a punch-out spaceship that you could actually, like...
Yeah, but... the other half of this is that it's sci-fi songs, okay? And so it's Cash.
There are a lot of people who like ELO a lot. I'm one of them.
Well, power to you people. All right, so here's the 25-25 versus 21-12.
That's ironic.
It's nice that they're paired together. Though 25-25 was catchy and fun, and I hadn't even heard of it before, and then you sold me on it. I was like, this is my favorite out of yours that I didn't know, and so, or that I didn't have on my list, and so yeah, I really like it. There's no way it is above 21-12. There's no stinking way it is above that.
Okay, so we actually have not talked very much about 21-12.
Right,
like there are probably a lot of people who are like, what is? Because I'll be honest with you. Okay, it made my list. I had never heard of this song before trying to find it.
All right, everybody sit down and let me tell you about 21-12 then. Okay, Rush, which is one of my favorite bands of all time anyway. Just love them, love Neil Peart, love the drum solos and all the riffs. It's just incredibly good stuff, and it's rock out in your car to music. Now, they did a concept album of the same name, so 21-12, which is it is a fictional universe or fictional solar system that is controlled by this group called the Federation. Federation are these this evil group that is in control of all of these planets. And their spokespeople are these priests who live in the Temple of Syrinx. And in that temple, there's a big computer that tells them basically everything that society can do and basically informs them on everything that society is allowed to do, what everyone should be focused on and doing. And so everybody within the Federation, they kind of have this oppressive, foot on the throats of everybody on all of these worlds, and you have to do what the priests say. It's their way or the highway. And so this one guy. So in the 21-12 song, which is 20 minutes long and it has different sections of the song because it's telling a full story. On the album, this is. As it was originally released, one side of the record was this 20-minute song. And then the reverse side of the record is kind of songs in the same vein, but they're not actually strictly connected to the story. They're more of Rush's normal fare, but with some of the themes still in play. But so the first side is the story. And so it's broken into, I believe, 5 parts. And there's these nice interludes of music between each of the main parts where you get heavy guitar and the words. And in those interludes, in the actual album, there are basically like notes of story that you read during those interludes. So you're reading about the story of what's coming next, and then you get the words and the song that goes along with it. And so it's interactive in that way, that you listen to it while reading a little bit. Anyway, so there's this guy who lives on one of these planets of the Federation. He accidentally stumbles upon a cave, this water cave that he goes in, and finds an old beaten up guitar that has been hidden away. And he doesn't even know what it is, because all music that isn't in line with what the priests say has been banned, outlawed. And so like rock and all that stuff doesn't exist. And so he finds this guitar, lays his fingers on it, and then starts plucking it and realizes that it makes music, and then starts playing it. And he is so overcome with emotion and joy that he runs and brings it to the priest to say, look what I have found. Now, so it's so awesome that I found this relic, and now we can share this with the world, and people can receive joy from it because it's a beautiful instrument to be played. To which the priests say, we know about what that is, and they throw it down and trample it and just shatter the instrument underfoot and say that instrument comes from a time of folly, and this isn't anything new to us, and just trample this guy's dreams of what this thing could be and send him away. To which he then goes away distraught, and he falls into a dream and has this vision of a society that left the Federation, which is kind of implied that this is our world that we, can enjoy today, because we have rock and we have all these beautiful expressions of art. And it's basically like the people that make up us on Earth at one point defected from the Federation, got away from the control of it, and now live in this basically utopia to him, that there's this enjoyment of the arts. And he realizing that he'll never have that, succumbs to the despair and ends his life, and so it's this oppressive, the idea is, and this is in the time of rock, when rock was getting backlash from conservative movements in America, and so this was kind of a push back on that of this is art, and this is an expressive sci-fi way of saying such. But I believe it is long. It's not as concise as your Brian May, but I think it takes its time. It sets up this story and lets you sit with it and really intake the words of what's happening in the scene. And I love it. There's incredible music in it too, and that is very diverse within the different movements of the song.
Well, you sold me on it. So I am
right there, like, well, I'm sold.
Number 6.
Number 6.
Making 25-25. Number 7.
Yeah. 2112. If you haven't listened to it, find the liner notes with it, and listen to it, and look at the movements of it, and read those. It's a great experience.
It really is. And I mean, it's kind of amazing that it's a thing that unto itself. Like, it's a thing to behold.
Well, it's kind of like that sci-fi, kind of like it like Dune is. It's setting up a whole society outside of our own, a whole other world with its own lore and
well, it even has a bit of a foundation sort of feel, where you've got this authoritarian, like empire setting itself up, and it's all there, and it's very enjoyable. But let's not forget, in at number 5 is 39 by Queen.
Oh yeah, we we set that down, didn't we? Okay, 39. All right, so this gets us
We're down to the final 4.
The final 4. What will be?
This is tough.
Our rankings.
So we have Space Oddity and Starman, both by Bowie. Mr. Roboto by Styx, and Rocket Man by Elton John. This is tough, because in my opinion, these are all relatively to excellent science fiction and relatively good to excellent songs. Like, they're super iconic too. So
Okay, I will harken back to
Mm-hmm.
our discussion earlier about Space Oddity and how it is a very, it's almost science fact in what it's saying of very much being like the early space race in America and Russia and somebody going up into one of these tin cans.
Yeah.
And so even though it's a fiction story, placing this, it's not taking massive sci-fi leaps forward in its thinking. And so I could see it falling lower amongst these four.
Yeah, I am kind of with you, though, in re-listening to it for this episode. I do love how the music tells the story, which to me makes it harder to be, because that's part of what makes it great is the way those two things are married to each other, is that, whenever the ship takes off, musically you're taking off. And, each movement of the song kind of communicates what's happening. True. The song gets more tense when, your circuit's dead. There's something wrong. Like,
I love the build up to the launch, the dun 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 dun, dun like, and when he's counting down to it, it's great. Okay, so.
But I will say of these four, I would probably put it at number 4.
Well,
as the best sci-fi song.
Well, if you're hesitating on it being that low.
Is there another one that you would see? That's the thing. I wouldn't make another like. These are great songs. Like these are great sci-fi songs.
Then what is potentially, if it's potentially number 4 or possibly number 3? What is the other song that is potentially 3, possibly 4?
Man,
for you
they're a very near dead heat. Do you have another one?
I would say if it were me, I would say Mr. Roboto is floating in that 3-4 zone.
I can give you that. I can see that.
Okay.
However, and we haven't really talked about Roboto yet.
Yeah, we haven't.
So for me, it also of our songs. So it's
another concept.
Yeah. One of the other things that we could have really dwelt on, and I don't feel like we did very much, but like a song like 39 sounds almost nothing like Sci-Fi. Like it's doing a different style, but there is sort of a sci-fi style. And I feel like in a lot of ways, Mr. Roboto is that song. Like
it is the synth.
Yeah.
New synth, new wave pop.
Yeah.
Sci-fi song. Yes, it is.
And so for me, that is another factor that kind of goes in its category. But like the sci-fi story that it tells is so great, and I've loved this story for forever. That you have a man who, for sundry reasons, has had to go into hiding, and the only way he can do it is to implant his mind into the body of a robot. Like that's amazing. That is such a good sci-fi song or like story.
Now, have you ever seen the intro video to this song?
Yeah,
that is for me. That is the. I like the concept. I like the idea. The execution,
and
of the movie and the stage, like as it goes into the stage, it is so hokey. It's so hokey and
I almost
cheesy
just
now.
Ignored music videos on these because, like, if you're.
But see, this isn't a music video. They played this video before. It went to the stage.
True.
It was very much a part of the live experience.
That's a fair
You
point.
watch this mini movie, and then it goes into Kilroy as the robot up there with is it Young? On stage, and their interaction going into the song. It's very self-indulgent.
It is, and it's like so cheesy in places, but I love it. Like you can't listen to the song and not like it's one of those things that's almost a guilty pleasure. Like you kind of are like
pleasure. And see, that's where I'm like Space Oddity, whereas it's timeless. I feel like anyone in many years to come can listen to this song and be like, such a great song. Whereas Mr. Roboto, if they as time moves on,
it is a
time capsule.
Yes, yeah.
What is if you send somebody in like, have you ever seen that video? Go watch it.
If we're gonna use that argument, Starman too has a kind of quaint, like. I mean, it sounds like the era it comes from. Like it.
But I mean, you could replace radio for anything. Like.
Oh, but see, I would say even.
Even radio
stylistically,
still even exists.
It sounds like late '60s, early '70s rock. Like it it sounds very much like a piece of it. And the there's some cheese in there too with like let the children choose it, let the children use it, let all the children boogie.
Boogay.
Boogay. Yeah, like that is so like
Yeah.
that is so like that's what the Starman wants to unify us in. Boogaying.
This is getting hard.
Isn't it? If you want, I can make this a lot easier. If we want to bump number 5 up to number 1.
No,
you're not okay.
Not happening. Not happening. These are solid.
Do you want to go? Do you want
to?
to? I'd be willing to move 5 and 6 to 1 and 2 if you just want to forego.
No, not happening. Not happening. Okay. For going again back to the argument of Space Oddity is very literal, and I could see it sitting at 4.
Based on the sci-fi, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, with Mr. Roboto sitting on top at 3.
Yeah.
Okay, I am fine with that.
So we've talked a little bit about both Starman and Rocket Man. These were songs that were on both of our lists.
Yeah.
Do you have a horse in this race? Which one do you think should be number 1? Which one do you think should be number 2?
I mean, goodness, Rocket Man, Starman, they're such.
The internet is going to call us sexist for this list. You know that, right?
Are they?
Because man. Because
why is it got to
be? Why is it got to be man?
Well, I mean, rock was sexist, so
there you go.
Back in the day, so yeah, I mean, these are 2 biggest songs by 2 massive stars, and these are their top hits. And so what do you
we could game SEO and give it to Rocket Man, since the Elton John biopic is expected to come out. Just like get all the people who are like, who are willing to sit and listen to us gush about sci-fi rock songs for 2 hours.
Here's my thinking.
Yeah.
Because Rocket Man is a lot like your Ticket to the Moon in concept, which Ticket to the Moon is a lot lower on this list. Also similar concept coming up twice on our list. It's a straightforward idea. Man is sent off into space. He's missing what's behind. He's becoming something, and he's losing. He's losing a little bit of himself out there. He's not exactly sure of who he is anymore, like all those ideas. But we've seen that a lot in sci-fi. That's kind of a well-worn road. Whereas Starman is just this crazy out there. There's a Starman up in space. He's communicating to a select few. I like the idea that it goes to this one guy, and he hears him on the radio. And then he goes to his friend and he's like, "You heard him too."
Yeah.
And so there's only like a few people who are getting this message. And then also like, don't tell your father, or he'll think we're crazy and throw us in a loony bin. It's wacky out there and fun.
You're a big fan of Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
I am, and this reminds me of Close Encounters.
Musically, Close Encounters.
Yeah, it really is. It's like Richard Dreyfuss finding another person like him who's seen the lights and is going to the mountain to meet up with the aliens. And so yeah, this has a lot of that Close Encounters yummy goodness in it.
Man, I actually lean a little bit towards Rocket Man though.
Really?
Because of the human element of it. And I would say if one of these 2 songs is the most iconic, which was one of your things, like what has permeated culture, that's Rocket Man. I mean, Roboto maybe is well known. I would say of Bowie's songs, Space Oddity is better known than Starman is. But like Rocket Man, everybody, that song is a part of our culture. It's who we are. Like if you met someone and they didn't know that song, you'd be a little like, is everything okay? Like, are you?
Yeah, I could see that. So, man, but it's such a straightforward, basic sci-fi concept, though. That's where I'm having a hard time with it. I like the human aspects. I like what it's saying. It is Elton's big hit, but I love the crazy zigginess of Starman.
There's only one way to break this.
How?
We have to give it to the internet to vote on.
There we go. Yeah, I definitely am more Starman, and you're more Rocket Man.
I go back and forth. Starman's one of the most fun songs ever. Like, even the drum riff in it is great.
Yeah.
So I could flip a coin and I could go either way on this. I would probably, again, I lean a little more towards harder sci-fi, or sci-fi that develops deep human themes. And for me, Rocket Man does that. Starman's more like fun, and and it's the most fun kind of fun. Like, it's just like the kind of fun that
Trippy
it's having
out
is
there,
great. Like,
yeah, weird sci-fi.
sort of stuff that you can only get in sci-fi, and that's amazing.
Is
too.
this our Trek Wars coming out? Like that? I just like the fun, like crazy out there sci-fi, and you're the more
yes.
humanist sci-fi.
Rocket Man
is
Star
Wars.
Trek.
Oh yeah, Rocket Man is Star Trek.
Starman is Star Wars. 100%.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, so
Do you want to just
you want to flip it?
You're leaning, how hard are you leaning?
I'm leaning hard.
Starman.
Yeah.
I am not leaning as hard Rocket Man, I don't think. So
okay.
it gives Bowie. Let's give Bowie number one.
He's Ziggy. Like, he did, and
and this comes from here's the pitch you should have made. This is from Z, Stardust, and Spiders from Mars. It's part of a sci-fi concept album. Come on, Brett. Don't you love sci-fi concept albums? And I'll be like,
true.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. So,
you just
in
sold
at number
yourself
2, Rocket Man, and sealing the deal, the top sci-fi song of the 20th century is Starman.
There's a Starman waiting in the sky, everybody. And he is the top dog up there.
Yeah, I think rightfully so. Rightfully so.
All right, so going through, just running through our list really quick. You got at number 10, Iron Man. 9, Highwaymen. 8, Ticket to the Moon. 7, 25-25. 6, 21-12. 5, 39. There's so many numbers.
We have so many numbers in a row. People got lost at that point in the list. Like, what?
Like, what numbers were? 4, Space Oddity. 3, Mr. Roboto. 2, Rocket Man. And 1, Starman. I'm happy with this.
I am too. This was grueling. We're sitting right now at recording for 2 hours. Going into this, didn't I tell you that with my voice and everything?
I'm surprised you've lasted.
I wanted to wrap this in an hour. Come on, Nick.
That's what happens when passion is put in. Then everything's out the window.
Yep. So this was a lot of fun, and I stand by our list now. A lot of these are tight.
Yeah.
But
all lists are subjective, but I feel this is pretty definitive for us. I think any sci-fi fan and fan of 80s, 70s, 80s rock would be happy with this.
And
list.
I would say the more important thing, hopefully through this list, you've heard of one or two that you had not heard before. Again, I had not heard 2112 before this. I'm glad I have.
I had never heard of 2525, and that I can tap my foot to, and I love it.
Yep.
And it's still really good sci-fi theme and making you think toward the future. I love it.
Nick, what are we going to be talking about next week?
Coming up really soon in April, Brett and I have tickets to Star Wars Celebration in Chicago. And we will be heading up there, going to panels, maybe meeting some celebrities, basically soaking in the fandom of Star Wars. This is the mecca, basically, of Star Wars nerds getting together. It didn't happen last year. It happened the year before. And so sometimes it's every year, sometimes it's every other. And so Star Wars fans are itching to get back together. And there's going to obviously be trailers, reveals, information, stars talking about, and people who are production behind the scenes getting into the nitty-gritty of what Star Wars is and development, talking about movies and stuff like that. It's going to be super nerdy. I'm super excited for this event, super excited to talk about it too.
Cool. Well, thank you all so much for listening to us. Remember, you can check us out at Dead Padawans Society on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Are we on Twitter?
Yes.
Okay, we are. Do we post things there?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm clearly not on Twitter, but evidently we are. But anywhere on social media, you can also email us at deadpadawanssociety@gmail.com. And we'd love to hear from you. Tell us what you thought about our list. Is it perfect, or did we slight the sci-fi song that you think belonged at the top? Let us know.
Yeah, what's your top 5 if you're going to comment. And tell us where we're wrong, tell us where we're right, and converse with us, and we'd love to hear from you.
All right, well, live long and prosper.
And may the force be with you.